You may have caught the skinny this past week that a decades-long, unblemished commitment to incompetence has at long last culminated in the collapse and sale of the once insuperable Electronic Arts. It's the longest-running comedy of errors since post-10th season Simpsons, only in this case the jokes are running the company, which is also why modern EA has the longest, deadliest punchlines since Jonestown. But it gets better. After interminable, tortuous decades of world-rending wokeification, after Lady Dongs in Dragon Age, Sapphic sniper amputees in Battlefield, and McDonald's commercial Mass Effect, Electronic Arts, the company characterized by corpo commie cringe, finds itself purchased by a joint venture organized by Saudi Arabian investors and Jared Kushner, the son-in-law of Donald J. Trump. Friends, countrymen, let us rant. Look, you know Schadenfreude is my love language, but I'll be brutally honest here. I'm infinitely less interested in finger flipping or chair spinning about a buyout I predicted as early as the launch of Fagin Age 2 or Mass Effect Pandromeda than I am in analyzing exactly how the corpse of the corpos in question wound up on a slab with a shiny new toe tag. After doing this for a decade and change, I realize a fair few of you may be coming in late, so allow me to assure you, it's a secret more open than Will Smith's marriage, but EA has been beleaguered longer than it takes Yongya to pronounce the word beleaguered. Sure, crapping all over mid-2010s EA's about as hard as finding a douchebag at a Bad Bunny concert, but when you really whip out the Sherlock Holmes lookety glass, the signs of subsidence were evident even in the early 2000s under a now infamous figure known as Don Mattrick. Yes, friends, the Oppenheimer caliber intellect who crapped out the Kinect and ended Xbox's pitifully brief dominance of the console market in a single circle jerk is also the man who presided over the earliest days of the EA apocalypse. On the surface, that era looked shinier than Gavin Newsom's veneers, though. Annual sports titles, some of which were superb, movie tie-ins such as the samey but excellent Lord of the Rings titles and the spectacular Star Wars Battlefront, and all of which were printing money like Ben Bernanke on bath salts. But by the time he retired in 2007 and sallied off to murder Microsoft, EA had the reputational integrity of a nun with a tramp stamp. Sure, he bought BioWare, and the lone release prior to his departure, the excellent Mass Effect 1, is arguably the lone unqualified success since the studio was purchased. Yes, I love Mass Effect 2 and Dragon Age Origins, but the former was a lesser linear effort compared to the original, and the latter had more bugs than a Magic Johnson blood sample. But while headwinds may have whirled during the Don Mattrick regime, it wasn't until the John Riccitiello 2.0 regime that things truly started to blow. John Riccitiello, when he isn't peering into the horizon with a leaden-eyed, soul-bereft stare solely possessed by video game executives, government employees, and serial killers with a crawl space full of Cub Scout corpses, actually boasted an impressive resume, believe it or don't. A journeyman executive hopping his happy ass from Haagen-Dazs to Sara Lee to the Pepsi Corporation, and even from 97 to 2004, Electronic Arts itself. But if Riccitiello's first run in the 90s was marked by mammoth success such as Command & Conquer, Lord of the Rings, Madden, and FIFA, the Riccitiello reunion tour of 07 was an abortion so brazen the entire company contracted a haunted vagina, made monumentally more awful by the fact that it didn't originally start that way, with EA having degenerated into a suck-ass sports and sequel factory. Upon his ascension as CEO in 07, Riccitiello not only greenlit the new shit, for the most part, it was really damn good new shit. It was this period in EA's history that saw the release of Cyberpunk Parkour Paperboy ripoff Mirror's Edge, exceptional stealth sandbox game The Saboteur, and perhaps most impressively of all, the underwear-shittingly scary sci-fi horror of Dead Space. Couple that with the only decent Mass Effect sequel, and it all looks happier than a handjob factory. The problem? With the exception of Mass Effect and Dead Space, those games lost more money than the Pentagon. Indeed, the emblematic event of the Riccitiello regime was in 2014, after tendering his resignation, his rival and galactic emperor of Activision, Bobby Kotick, jibed that he would have happily paid for Riccitiello to remain CEO forever. I repeat, my dude got dunked on by Beelzebubby Kotick.
The judge of management is when you keep winning. Activision did this to EA, and EA looks like this tired company being led by, non-founder energy. And while you and Brian kept running stuff, EA turned to, somebody else that they should have known better. Brought in a CFO they should have known better, and it was kind of the no talent, no good acquisition.
The Riccitiello era was like watching the docking of the Hindenburg in slow motion. Everyone knew it was going up. We were just waiting on that one errant lightning bolt to flambe the dogshit dirigible. And initially, perhaps carried by the prior momentum of their independent RPG studio origins, companies like Pandemic and BioWare brought us some bangers. The problem was, they couldn't follow up for shit, and one after another the lightning strikes fell like the fist of an angry god. Pandemic Studios was shit-canned before the Saboteur even launched. Smash hit Mass Effect 2 was followed up with the Olympian abortion, Mass Effect the Turd, and the self-same scenario would recur when the damn good Dragon Age Origins preceded the worst sequel since Vatican II.
So a lot of people, when they played the combat in Dragon Age Origins, they weren't really getting that kind of sense of getting into the heart of battle. So we went into point, we have one motto on the team in terms of combat, and that's when you press a button, something awesome has to happen. So Button Awesome connected now in Dragon Age 2.
I mean, sure, Dragon Age Inquisition was a baby step in the right direction, but when the game's cast was appealing as a tarantula on a slice of angel food cake, who the hell cares? Besides, by this point, after Mass Effect's sudden schizophrenic fit and big freaking drill simulator Dead Space 3...
What we're about to see here is one of our all-new, thrilling, epic moments. This one takes place with this giant freaking drill. And we really spent a lot of time making sure the pulping was super awesome, because I like saying the word pulping, just it's freaking cool. So we did it, and it's awesome.
Baby steps weren't gonna cut the cocaine, folks. Sure, Madden made money, and Mexicans would fire FIFA into their veins if they sold it in syringe form, but original IPs were damn near dead. The Mirror's Edge sequel was better than the original, and sold 2 entire copies, while Dragon Age became the hit that never hit again. And CEO John Riccitiello's only answer was making money with the microtransaction method. Indeed, on one famous stockholder phone call, John audibly suggested charging the steadily dwindling Battlefield player base $1 to reload their gun, which, to be fair, is still better than modern ammo prices. My best abiding real-world example is a retail company I worked for at one time, where after many quarters of colossal growth, suddenly, in the earliest days of what would soon be called the Great Recession, our business slowed. While the employees on the ground could see the issue was that fewer people were walking into the store, the front office's answer was to command us to hard sell product to our dwindling consumer base. Problem being, while that helped us pop a number in the shorter term, as the fewer and fewer customers who had been walking into the store caught on to the fact that every time they darkened our doorway, they walked out spending twice as much as they initially intended, even they soured on our store and stopped showing up. John Riccitiello's answer to EA's implosion was to milk the merry shit out of an already eroding consumer base and brag about it in interviews as he did so. EA was in outright free fall, and it was around this time that the company came down with a case of the commies. Indeed, contrary to popular appraisals by hacky AI-voiced YouTube essays, it was only after the John Riccitiello regime that they went from hiring interns to com-interns and from Electronic Arts to liberal arts. John Boy bounced after EA's checks started doing the same. In came Aussie Andrew Wilson to take his place to enact a player-first strategy that sure looked an awful lot like slapping a different name on an EA Origin service that sucks rolling fields of phallus under any eponym. Andrew Wilson's first major release was Anthem, the biggest bomb since Severny Island, and so commenced the dilatory tailspin from 2013 to 2024. And so here we sit, watching the same EA, bashed in a boardroom Bolshevism of the left coast corporate persuasion, whose games have more genders than features, now owned by Trump's son-in-law, and Saudi Arabia, where every rooftop doubles as a high dive for homos. Whatever the future brings for the actively imploding EA, it's my sincere hope you've all taken a beat to pause, process, and fully appreciate the poetry of this past week, because Shakespeare couldn't craft a sonnet this profound. Which is apropos to the topic, as to this point, EA is about the the only entity other than Shakespeare who's employed more women with wangs. Will it improve the company? Probably not, but be honest. Is a Saudi oil baron making an American military shooter any worse than a gaggle of anti-gun socialist Swedes boning the Battlefield franchise at present? Sure, I'm not over the moon about Battlefield burqa editions, but I say we make like a homosexual in a cage and let him cook. I'm Razor Fist. Godspeed.
Here, vegetables.
Thank you.
So, I'm non-binary.
What does that mean?
It means I don't feel like a man or a woman.